All right, let's go ahead and get started so that we can almost be on time.
Rock and roll, man. Welcome back to the second episode of season 2, Tidepocalypse.
Tidepocalypse, that's what we're going with now?
I mean, it was the Tide podcast, but Tidepocalypse is so much cooler.
Okay, fair.
And,
Tidemageddon.
and I am super honored, man. We are joined by as far as credentials and earnings go, the greatest Legends player in the world, Will.
Whoa! I mean, you say that, but I think Justin is the greatest player in
No,
terms
just the
of.
most famous. There's a huge distinction.
Yeah.
Yeah, nowhere near the best. Nowhere near.
Oh, look, I got a Twitch Prime sub from Justin.
Oh, I see. Wow. Let's give this dedicated sub a shout out real quick.
Yeah, I'm his subscriber.
Indeed.
No, but in all honesty, Will, we're super excited to have you here. Like, your performance at this tournament was awesome, and I can't wait to get into this discussion with you.
Okay, great. Thanks. I'm happy to be here. I really liked seeing you two on stage, casting. But it was great too.
Thank you very much.
So, what I want to know is, when are we going to see Will's dad?
Yeah, I
Let's
mean,
just get that right out of the gate.
I agree. I think this guy's been talked about enough. He needs to make an appearance on the podcast.
He will. He will show up at some point,
Yes.
and it will be a surprise. Okay.
Oh, that is amazing. That is exactly what I wanted to hear.
He will not be saying anything to the podcast, but you will be able to see him at some point.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude.
All right, so we're going to attempt to make this almost sound like it's a real production here. All right. We're joined by Will. He was the Master Series champion from the big $50,000 tournament that culminated at QuakeCon. He goes by Please Don't Hack Me in game. You may recognize him from the ladder, crushing you. So why don't we give Will a chance to introduce himself, kind of tell us fun tidbits about himself, things like that. And then I have a question, like a real question I want to ask that's been bothering me since the Master Series.
I mean, I don't think there's much. I started Elder Scrolls Legends like a year and a half ago, and I've just really liked the game. And I don't have CCG experience like a lot of the other players, but I mean, you can overcome that if you like and try enough to learn the game. So I don't know. I think you've said pretty much everything. I am in school, but I don't really care about school, so that's irrelevant, right?
What are you studying?
I'm technically studying finance, but I want to switch to computer science, which there's a whole bunch of shenanigans revolving my school where I don't even know if they're accepting whether or not I switch, and I have to pick my courses after I find out if they let me.
Oh, wow.
And school starts in like 2 weeks, but because of the strike, they still haven't got around to it yet. So I have no idea what's happening.
That's amazing.
So
You said yes?
after one of your matches,
Yes.
there was an interview portion, and somebody asked you if your dad was proud of you yet.
Ah, yes, that was Corey.
Yeah.
All right. So what actually happened was on the first qualifier, when I qualified on Saturday, I streamed my run, and Corey came in and asked me. Actually, no. So basically, at some point, he asked me if my dad knew about the tournament, and then on Sunday, he asked me if my dad was proud of me for qualifying. I don't know if it was Sunday or on Saturday when I did like the unofficial casts of the tournament. But after I qualified, he asked me if my dad was proud of me for qualifying, and I explained to him, no, because one, I didn't come in first, and it was only the qualifier, and two, because I hadn't won QuakeCon yet. So at that point in time, he said I had to tell him, no, my dad was not proud of me. And then at QuakeCon, he greeted me and asked me again if my dad was proud of me that I was there. And again, I had to tell him, no, my dad said only if I come in first or second. So when I finally won, Corey had to ask me once more. But of course, at that point in time, my dad did not know.
What a fucking journey, dude. That's awesome. generally speaking, is your family like supportive of you pursuing competitive gaming like this?
Well, I guess it's my dad kind of has like no idea of how all of it works. My mom is like okay with whatever I do as long as I do it properly. My sister basically would be okay with it if it were to go down that road. But obviously, as it is now, I still have to worry about the other priorities more because it's not that serious yet.
Right. It's kind of maybe like some people think it's not sustainable, that sort of thing.
Well, as it is, it's not. But like,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, you won quite a bit of money. I mean, and I know that I know we were joking about like what we were going to buy when you got home. You talked about student loans, which I thought was great, and also I feel your pain there. Is there any like just totally self-indulgent purchase you've made since you returning home?
No, I mean, let me put it this way, right? So first of all, the money I made is almost like I had maybe a part-time job during school or a job during the summer, which I didn't have. And I actually did spend all of that time doing something I liked, which was playing Elder Scrolls Legends. And I did that already voluntarily. So, you know, if I have fun doing it, why change now just because I have access to money, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but you could get like a really sweet microphone.
I mean, they made me spend $50 for a microphone for casting the qualifiers already, so I think I'm okay with it.
Is casting and I mean, like, do you want to leverage, I guess is my question, this success into like a more advanced role in the community in general?
I mean, it would depend what that entails, but that it would be cool as long as I have the time to like follow up with that, right?
Yeah,
I think it would be cool.
For some self-indulgent perspective here,
yes,
my Legends career kicked off when I won the very first Legends tournament 2 years ago.
all right, put it down. It took 9 minutes for Justin to bring it up. 9 minutes. That's how long. 9 minutes. That's how far he made it. Not even double digits, folks.
Before you continue, okay, so I promise I will let you continue, but I just want to mention, since I wasn't around that time, I didn't know about it, but I found out when I was checking the VOD of the tournament, and I remembered you mentioning it when CBH was talking about how the new tournaments are coming up, and I very specifically remember you saying, and shout outs to me for winning the first one. But do continue. I want to hear.
No, there's nothing to say. I mean, it was an epic performance. Like, I was hailed as a hero, and you know,
you're still a hero. You're more of a hero of memes now.
I want to talk about old Justin for a minute, because everybody knows face paint Justin, okay? Everybody knows lovable meme deck Justin. Do you want to know what Justin was like closed beta and like that first month of open beta?
Yes, I do want to know.
Justin was playing a deck that was so expensive to craft. It was called Money Scout. Like you would spell scout with the $sign, right? So this is not new player friendly, right? This is the spikiest of spike, the most asshole, like, you know how when new players, they pick up a game and they're like, I don't know how I compete against these guys that play all their legendaries. That used to be Justin. So for all the like him killing Iron Atronachs on the ladder nowadays, there was a time when he was the scumbag. It was Scumbag Larson and his Money Scout list.
Yeah.
But how good was the legendaries in the deck?
I mean, it's tough to say, right? Like, I spent like a lot of time in the top 10 legend for like 3 months. But the deck itself, it's debatable how good it was. I think I had spent so much more time playing in closed beta than a lot of the people in open beta, that started playing then, that I just had a huge advantage.
I mean, the thing, if you add legendaries for the sake of having more legendaries, then I think that's still a pretty good meme in and of itself.
Sure, but like when the game first launches and nobody knows what's going on, there's no like strategy involved. So as a rule of thumb, like before a meta develops, if you just cram the most powerful cards into your deck and you go, well, these are the rarest, so they must be really powerful, it probably works. Yeah. Maybe I'll have a curve here. Maybe I won't. Like, it worked enough.
That reminds me of something CVH said once. He said that when he started playing, he looked up people who had been building decks in closed beta, and he found my scout deck, and he just net decked, and he's like, "Oh, this guy must be good." And then he played it for a while, and he's like, "I don't know what's wrong with this guy or this game's community."
Oh, okay. So this is actually not much of a story, but it was actually so like intensely burned into my memory that I still remember it to this day. And you guys reminded me of it. So what happened was, it was like right after I started, and I was like ranked like 89 and a half. Not legend. And I had no idea what I was doing. And I ran into this particular guy. I don't remember who he was, but I very specifically remembered every single card he played was a unique legendary. No, not premium legendary. Not only that, but he also put me in the dumpster. That's all. I very specifically remember this point in time.
That makes sense, man. Sounds awesome.
Yeah, you know what that probably was? That was probably somebody. It was probably somebody who just watched Justin's video, the 1% or whatever, and he was like, "I want to do this because I want to do everything Justin does." Same reason I've been running into support mage for like the last week.
Wait, what? I've seen like only dust on support mage.
I ran into Person of Secrets and like 3 other people across a 2-day span. Like, that's not a coincidence. Nobody just says, "Oh, I'm gonna pick this up." Like,
God, I really pray that the support mages you ran into were net decking Dust or Person of Secrets and not me.
Why? Because you don't like facing them? I remember.
No, because those 2 guys are really good at this game.
Oh, I thought it was in relation to your Hive Offender post. I remember that one too.
No, that was in response to me running into my own deck, my own exact list, and realizing how fucking awful it was to play against. It's like, oh, dude, this is just not fun.
So, okay.
Why don't you recap for us a little bit, like, your experience meeting the other 15 players? Because, I mean, that had to be kind of a cool experience.
Oh, it was. I mean, that's what made it so great. Like, if I were to lose, then it would be okay, because going there and meeting everyone was already like so cool, right? Yeah. I think being able to really chat with everyone like face to face, and actually connect with them as a person, and not just as a player, is like you can't dislike them anymore. No matter what, you can face them on the ladder, and they can hit you with like the stupidest thing, and you can lose in the most degenerate of ways, and you can't dislike them anymore because you actually like talked to them in person, and they were cool. You know?
Wait, did you meet the same Justin I did? Because I can still dislike Justin every time I run into him.
Dude, god damn it! I don't know if I've ever run into you on the ladder.
I'm not sure that I have either.
Yeah. I don't think I faced either of you on the ladder.
Yeah.
I know I've played you. I'm pretty sure.
5 Serpent anymore.
I'm pretty sure I've lost a will on the ladder. I know I lost a will in a Tussle Championship series.
What?
Yeah, I lost to you in the first round because of prophecies, and I remember very specifically afterwards. You messaged me and you were like, "Hey man, great game. I got lucky with some prophecies because we were both playing like some tempo decks, and I got wrecked by prophecies."
Me playing
Yeah.
How long ago was
this? This would have been like 6 or 7 months ago. It was probably like maybe right when you were first like playing tournaments. Like, I remember because you were so excited and you messaged me, and I was just like, "Oh, this is a cool dude." But yeah, you totally knocked me out round 1.
Wow.
It's only the second time I've been knocked out of a round 1, which is exactly why I remember it. The only 2 times I've ever been knocked out of a tournament round 1 are you and Aini. So that's really good company.
Yeah, I honestly cannot remember playing tempo decks.
Yeah.
Forget tournaments or facing you. I can't remember even playing tempo decks.
Yeah, it was you and I both were on like tempo-y mid-range lists. I remember specifically you had an archer and an assassin.
Okay. I remember this now. I remember.
Yeah. Because we both had really similar lists, and we talked about it afterwards. And you were really nice, and I was just like, "Oh yeah, this is cool." And
running into playing against Charmer in general is not a very memorable experience. Like, I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
I didn't play in much tournaments before the community tournament on the week that Warp Meadow was on break a few months ago. That was like my first. That was when I started playing in like tournaments frequently. Before that, I don't even remember how long ago it was that I played a tournament before that. But yeah, I don't often. You won't often find me playing decks that go face.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Good. I don't know what else to say. Just good. That's awesome.
I mean, I thought you would prefer decks that go face when you talked about the support mage.
No. Look, there's a difference between what I want to play against and what I want to play, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, but
Listen, Justin's perfect game of Legends is one that takes an hour and a half.
Yeah,
Neither player attacks throughout the entire thing, and the player who wins one of two acceptable ways: either fatigue, but fatigue post a journey. So like you play through a whole deck, recycle, play again, and then fatigue. That's one acceptable way to win. The second is if a random card creates a random card creates a random card creates Unite the Houses or Jarl. If it's not one of those two things, it is not an honorable game of Legends, and you must commit Sudoku.
Yes, except Sudoku is a numbers game.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant Subaru.
No, love. That's what makes a Subaru a Subaru.
Oh,
so I also recall when CVH was asking what you want us to see out of this mud crab, and I think you said mud crab into like Wabajack, into like Castellan, into Dagoth or something like that.
Yeah. That's the kind of experience that I was really hoping to be able to cast.
Oh, I mean that would be pretty hilarious if that actually happened on stage. Yeah. I kind of wish that happened, but I think we've had enough RNG moments even without RNG cards off of certain top decks.
Yeah,
absolutely. You know, I really did think that the Master Series in general was like a perfect blend of like incredibly exciting oh shit moments and like top notch like well-reasoned, thought-out gameplay. Like it had the high drama, but it also had like the high intensity, like thoughtfulness that like you would expect from these players.
Yeah, I really liked the display, and I really liked. I can't stress how much I liked it. The diversity that you could see, whether in play styles, in deck building, in like classes, in literally everything you could name. There was so much diversity.
Yeah, everything except casters.
I mean,
low blow, dude.
Let's not talk about that. But like, despite every single month you've got so many people complain about meta being stale, oppressive decks being OP, and then you see the first big tournament and there was like almost no pattern.
No, none whatsoever. I talked about that a bit when I had the chance to actually talk, Justin, and I was super excited that we had. I mean, we had mid-range, we had aggro, we had control, we had combo, we had almost every class covered. I mean, Monk was the only one that didn't show up, and I don't think any of the players there would have been surprised if somebody had brought Monk. It's not like it's like that basement tier, you know what I mean? So I think that said so much about the game and just the overall balance. It was refreshing. Yeah,
I think the class that was second to Monk was Spell Sword, thanks to Joe bring the once. I don't think anyone else brought Spell Sword, but I don't think it would have been any more surprising if there was a Monk instead of the Spell Sword, or even one of both.
Right.
Yeah. it was beautiful. It was definitely beautiful. I actually do think that the balance patch was successful. Exactly because you don't have like a bunch of people bringing the scout. The only issue was that now almost nobody brought scout, and that was a large change. But I think the goal of the balance patch was achieved. So I do like that.
I don't think we could have asked for a better timed balance patch as far as like the result it had on the meta. I thought it was amazing.
I think the result was definitely good.
Yeah, I was supremely impressed. I mean, like as we started getting deck lists and like CVH and Charmer and I were talking about him, like we were just I couldn't stop fucking grinning. I could not stop grinning because like this was going to be an amazing experience. I knew just looking at the lists.
Oh, actually, one more thing. I know Charmer said there was plenty of every archetype, including combo. I was able to see almost no combo because my Talvani deck was banned every round, all 5.
Do you think that was the right move?
I was actually super surprised that Karakhan banned it. I think it was correct for the other four to ban it, but Karakhan was the only lineup with all 4 aggro decks, and I think my Battle Mage and Mage was actually better suited against the aggro matchup, so I was surprised.
You know, Santos Vela said something about that to me. He's like, you know, because he identified a lot with Karakhan's rules lineup, said, hey, this is a guy who did something similar to what I did, minus the Savage Ogres. And he's like, I don't ever plan on banning Telvanni. I'm just going to beat Telvanni down. I'm going to ban Tribunal if they have it, and then I'm going to go after the deck that can race me.
Yeah, I think like Telvanni has defensive options, but they're not as good as at 1-for-1, and aggro decks are generally like built to snowball lead. So if you're up in creatures, that's always good for you. And if Tribunal keeps you down on creatures, that's not good. For example, I'll just give you a quick example. I know it's not applicable to Santos aggro decks per se, but like a lot of cards need other cards to get value out of, like Halfinger, Mighty Conjuring. If you destroy all their 5+ creatures the turn they're played, it's extremely difficult to get Mighty Conjuring down before like turn 10 with an Ancestor. Like 5th Legion Trainer, like if you execute that right away, it's just going to be a different story. Just stuff like that, right? So aggro decks are definitely... Yeah, Savage Ogre is very difficult to get through if your creature can't attack in the first place.
Yeah.
So,
see, yeah, I would never like question Karakhan Jewel because he's a great player. But yes, I do remember saying during the cast that I had wondered if he was going to actually do the Telvanni ban, or if he was going to try something else. Like I thought he might actually take a shot at potentially your Mage deck as the ban. And my reasoning behind that was that as far as Telvanni goes, outside of your lethal creatures, you didn't have a lot that could really deal with the big creatures that he had. And so, like, even if you do have Vipers and stuff, if they hide in the Shadow Lane for at least a turn, they might be able to push through. And then the other reason that I was considering that he might let it go was he was running the full suite of Withered Hand Cultists in every deck, right? Yes. So if there was ever a lineup I felt like, hey, they might be able to let Will like get away with Telvanni, or they might be able to disrupt it, I felt like his had the best shot. Again, like I'm never gonna second guess it because he's a great player and I'm sure he's put in a lot more time testing. But just like on the surface, as an outsider looking in, if he would have banned something else, I wouldn't have like blinked. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think there is relevance to also player preference. I know that he is definitely not a fan of Telvanni in general, so I think that may be a relevant factor. I just want to make a quick note. He had 3 tricolor decks and Warrior, and I had 1 tricolor deck and 3 dual color decks. I banned the 1 dual color deck and he banned the 1 tricolor deck. So it was 3 dual color decks versus 3 tricolor decks in the finals. I just want to make note of that, however relevant you may find that.
Oh man, I you know, as I was leaving QuakeCon, like the next couple days, I was still like, it was like a come down, right? It was like it was like a hangover. Like it was such a great experience being with you guys, and I think in particular that last night when we went to that weird barbecue place, like that was just one. I mean, honestly, one of the coolest experiences I've ever had in my life. It was so much fun.
I agree. I think it was also super cool to listen to some of Josh's opinions as a developer and what he like wants out of cards, what he hopes to achieve when he designs cards, and like what he considers good and what he considers bad. Like I was kind of surprised to hear that like what he regarded as one of his greatest failures was not something that we see, you know, very uniquely, but rather a card like just a good card that we see a lot of, and that was Endoro Mastermind. So obviously it created a lot of interesting decks. It causes a lot of consistency thing. I was kind of surprised that was one of the cards he finds the most problem with. So it was definitely cool to listen to what he thinks, especially going forward, and what I can expect.
Yeah, talking to him was an absolute blast, and I really think that having one of the designers on board as a caster at events like this provided a whole lot of great opportunities, both for players to get to know him, for him to offer some really unique commentary. Like having Josh involved was an absolute like pleasure.
Yeah, and as a bonus, he was also very good at card games.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like this is a guy who the week before was getting second place on the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot about it, but I still don't even know what the Pro Tour is. But it sounds very prestigious. It does. So
it's it's the best Magic players in the world playing for inadequate amounts of money, less money actually than you played for.
Really? That's surprising considering how big MTG is.
Yeah. I'm not going to pretend to understand that their economic plan. But
yeah, I don't understand a lot of what's going on over there. There's some turmoil kind of in general about things. There's a lot of unrest. One of the things I wanted to ask you, Will, just because it wasn't something that us casters got to experience, what was it like to actually play on the stage? Because I know that there were the non-stage matches that you played at the tournament, right? But then when you're on the stage, what was that experience like, and how much different is that from playing at home, and what does it do to your mindset? Because that's unique, right?
Yeah, I think it was definitely less stressful than you expect, first of all. But there was definitely, don't get me wrong, it was very unique, but it wasn't that stressful. And I'll explain a bit more, but first I just want to mention a few things. Playing off stage was very different from playing on stage, and it was actually surprisingly close to playing at home, except for having trouble with accounts and computer settings. It was too bright for me. I had to turn down the brightness as the first thing. But getting on stage, okay, there was one thing was during my quarterfinals, I missed lunch, and during the finals, I missed dinner. So that was something that happened with playing on stage that wouldn't happen off stage. Playing on stage though, I ended up actually focusing a lot more on the game because there was nothing else to distract me, right? Off stage, there was a lot of times during my opponent's dinners where I would just look at the staged game because I was just waiting. But on stage, there's nothing else. There's nothing else for you to do to distract you, so you can actually focus a lot more, probably even play better, at least probably in my case. To know that you are being watched isn't that bad. I stream all the time, so I already know I'm being watched. Although on the stage I don't have to interact, so it doesn't hurt my play. I think it's actually not that stressful as long as you just focus on the game and do your best.
Now, Person of Secrets said when he made his misplay that he could hear even over the white noise that they were pumping into your headphones. Could you hear as well?
Okay, so the noise canceling headphones, they don't get rid of noise. They just make outside noise blurry. So it's less about making sure that you can't hear anything and more about making sure you can't tell what it is you're hearing. So
you can't hear the casting.
Yeah, you can hear the casting, you just can't tell what they're saying.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I gotta say, one of the highlights for me, and I think for a lot of viewers, was when we had the face cams on, and I'm thinking in particular of that moment against Person of Secrets. Your reactions to some of these moments was just fucking epic. I think it really, those face cams pushed things into they humanized you, as players, and watching you slam your hands on your head when he hit that Black Hand Messenger, and then your response when he didn't kill you with it. I mean, that really to me sent home, hey, this is a guy going through a lot right now.
I mean, I think, okay, so I know I was the person on stage, but I think it's important for people at home to be able to watch and feel like they aren't, not feel intimidated, not feel out of place, and feel like they could be that too. And I think that's really important because I don't have CCG experience. I basically had no idea what I was doing until a year ago. So everything was pretty much self-taught over the course of a year. So I think people should understand and feel like they can do it too. And I think being able to see them and understand that they're also people just like you, it helps them not be intimidated by the competitive scene.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not to say that was why I reacted that way, but that's just a side comment.
No, I can appreciate that. I mean, I would have fallen out of my chair. So, congratulations for remaining upright.
Yeah, I mean, we were all reacting.
Honestly, I fell off the bench almost. I think I was in the audience when that happened.
Yeah, we were all reacting pretty exasperatedly back there as well.
Have you ever fell out of your chair while recording or playing Elder Scrolls Legends?
Unintentionally while like playing by myself, because like I just kind of like swirl my chair around and stuff. But no, I've thought about doing it for dramatic effect, but then like no, I mean honestly, it's something that crosses my mind. I'd be lying if I say I hadn't thought about it, but I haven't done it yet. Have you?
No. I know Aini has. Yes, I know Aini has fallen out of
that video. That was epic.
I have tripped over a dog while recording because I was like getting up, but like you couldn't see it. It was like off camera. Like I'm getting up and then the dog was to my left and I tripped over it and like kind of fell, but not like on camera. But a fun behind the scenes fact, we did get the go ahead from ESL during the qualifiers that if something absolutely bonkers ridiculous happened, I was allowed to get up and throw my chair.
Throw your chair at Justin?
No, just like throw my chair and then like walk out of like throw my chair, put the headphones down and walk away. Because I'd asked ahead of time. I was like, how bold of a reaction am I allowed to go? And I just picked the most ridiculous thing I could think of, right? Just to kind of test. So I was like, what if I want to throw a chair? And like they thought about it for a minute and he was like, yeah, I think we can make that work. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, now I know what I'm working with.
Dude.
Yeah, I love how interactive you guys were, even though you guys were like being official and like flown out and in person on the stage. Like how Justin put a shoe on his head just because someone in chat said to do it. I thought that was amazing. That was great.
Those ESL guys, I got to give them credit. Like they were down for anything we threw at them.
I mean, I think I think I would hope so, given that you two are the people they chose for casters. Or else they'd be putting it to waste. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair. I will say, like, Derek and I had like 4 hours of rehearsal time when we went to LA the first time, the day before we started doing all this.
Okay.
And I think it really, really helped. And I wish we had that time with the 3-man panel that we did at QuakeCon.
Okay.
Yeah, I would second that for sure.
You guys didn't get much rehearsal time, or?
No, the Quake guys took most of it.
Yeah, the Quake guys, they went a little long, and then there was like some teardown and like set change issues, and so like we did get rehearsal time, but it was like rushed, and we didn't get through everything we wanted to. And I know I've said this like on Twitter and in other places, but the 3-man desk was definitely throwing me personally, just because.
Yeah.
You know,
I can imagine that.
Yeah, like when it's Justin and I, not only did we like work out hand signals where if somebody wants to like get something in, like I could just kind of like side point real quick. So like we had our own system, but then also it's just very natural and conversational. When the other person pauses, you know it's your turn to jump in.
Yeah.
But with the 3-man thing, I kept having like long periods where like I just wasn't talking at all, because every time somebody would stop talking, I would like wait for the next person to start, or is it my window? And there's like that weird in between. So like it was really throwing me for a bit.
Yeah, like when one person stops, you don't know if it's your turn or the other person's turn. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it was hard to pitch back and forth with 3 people, but it's one of those things. Again, I think with more practice we would have done fine. I think day 2 is better than day 1.
Oh yeah, I think we would certainly improve a lot given some more exposure.
Yeah.
I want to say this is just a completely unrelated note, but Tessel, a very skill-intensive game. No matter how good you are, you will always have a lot of times where the plays are not optimal. I may have won, but after watching the VODs and checking my games, I noticed almost every game a number of times when I said I could have done this better or I could have done that better. So I think it's important to understand that, like, yes, you probably maybe you saw a misplay, and that yes, you probably may have made that one decision better, but that one moment doesn't mean that the player up there is bad, or like, you know, like they may have made an obvious misplay, but they're making, like, there's just so many decisions to make. It's impossible to just not trip up here and there. I think that's important to keep in mind.
That's a really good point, and I think something that a lot of people need to hear from a player of your caliber with your success rate. So I appreciate you shouting that out.
Yeah, I mean, I say it all the time that like I'll record stuff and I almost always will find more play mistakes in my wins than my losses. Like when I watch it back for YouTube, if I've been recording games, there are some times where like I'll win games and I'm like, I'm never showing that to anybody, right? Like I don't know how I won. I don't deserve to win because I saw just like endless play mistakes, but I catch them all the time and I'm nowhere near like, you know, top echelon. So like I can't imagine that there's not still those constant moments, right? Like when you watch it back where you're just like, this could go either way, or this is a really interesting decision tree, or...
Yes. I mean, I want, like, about that, like, I think when you lose, a lot of the times, like, you'll be almost helpless, so you'll have a lot of moments where your decisions don't matter, but when a game is really close, or a game you're winning, you've got a lot more room for decisions, so it's easier, there's more time and chances to make mistakes as well.
No, that's an interesting thought.
Justin?
I mean, you can just win more games to let yourself have more room for mistakes, right? Is that how this works?
I mean, I've made a lot of mistakes and I have not won a lot of games.
Yeah, I was gonna say Justin's bailing out of this conversation because we're talking about winning.
Look, plus honestly, I never watch back my own stuff. Like I find it really hard to.
I usually don't, but
yeah.
for like competitive games, like specifically when
it makes sense from that perspective, absolutely.
Because I'm really trying to make no mistakes, right? Like on stream, I don't care about the game. I stream to talk to people, so I actually don't care about the gameplay. But on stage, right, I'm doing my best to make sure I can win, have the highest chance of winning. So if I'm seeing the mistakes in that scenario, it's much more valuable.
Yeah, I totally agree. That makes sense. I think Derek was about to make fun of me.
I mean, am I breathing?
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. So, Will, let me ask you this. There's been no announcement of any future, tournament plans, anything concrete. Yes. Although, obviously we heard some stuff while we were there. So, without addressing like anything specific, where do you want to see the competitive scene of Legends go?
Bigger, grander, more people trying, more people having time to practice because they feel like it's a worthwhile investment in time. Like there's something that they can afford putting time in to practice, and not something that it's like, oh yeah, it's just, something I barely have time for, but I'll just, spend what little time I have to play in these qualifiers, big enough that it's important enough for people to have better preparation and participation.
Oh, fair enough. Are you considering like, I guess I touched briefly on like ways that you want to parlay your success into, maybe a bigger role in the community. I was wondering if you had any specific ideas for things that you were considering doing now that you had this, increased size of platform.
Well, I mean, I think my main goal is always to be a streamer as a member of the community. But I know that especially before joining Team Rankstar, I had a lot of questionable image building. So I'm going to probably work on that before anything else.
Anything specifically about that you want to address?
I know there's a lot of people that think I'm toxic. And that in particular, I'm trying to address.
Okay. I mean, I have to be honest, I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. I've always thought you were a pretty nice guy. But I also just don't pay a whole lot of attention to what's going on around me.
I mean, I could expand if you really want me to.
It's up to you if you want to address it or not.
So basically what happens is I may not lie. Like I will be honest with what I think, but my communication of that may not be in the most hygienic of formats.
Fair enough. So maybe in the heat of the moment, you're just a little too blunt for
something like
some
that.
People's taste.
Something like that. I definitely I think it is a problem. Like it's not always about what you say, right? It's a lot of the time how you say it is more important than the content of what you say. So I do agree it is a problem. So
Yeah, that's a pretty great observation for life in general that I think a lot of people, especially in the internet age, like sort of miss, right? Like they have they have access to the anonymity, and so they're like, well, I'm just going to lay it all out there without considering like how I'm delivering this message. And I mean, one of the things that I honestly really believe is that like the style of delivery, traditionally more important than the content.
Yeah, I think some people focus too much on wanting to be correct and wanting to build relations. And even if they are correct, it's still not like it doesn't do you anything to be correct. And even if you're incorrect, it doesn't do you anything to try to convince yourself that you are correct. So
that's something Justin and I talk about frequently, and it can be hard to swallow if you're somebody who really likes you know, facts and like science and things like that. But like the truth is, like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how right or correct or whatever you are if nobody else cares.
Exactly.
Right? Like it doesn't matter. If nobody else cares, then what's the point?
Yeah, people's subjective reality is, I mean, this is one of the things that like the counseling training that I've gone through for years has always stressed. Subjective reality is in every way more significant to a person than objective reality.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Feelings over facts.
Especially when you're talking to other people.
Yeah, right.
I'm getting lambasted in the chat by my wife right now.
Awesome.
Perfect. That's when you know you're doing something right.
Right, but nobody cares. Doesn't matter how right I am if nobody cares.
That's
Your
fair.
wife seems to care if she's in the chat. That's a good thing, right?
Shout out to Charmer's wife, by the way. Sophie is an amazing woman who seems to really support your sort of like ridiculous habit, right? Is that fair to say, Derek?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, she's always been really supportive of my content creation. She hangs out for the streams. Sometimes she guest streams. Obviously, holding down the fort, helping take care of the kids when I'm, you know, across the country doing things for the community. Yeah, she is the familial rock.
You know, speaking of like traveling across the country doing things, I realized recently that like I have flown more between April and August doing legend stuff than I flew in the previous 33 years of my life.
Same.
That is
one time and came back, and that is more plane rides than I've had before in my life before.
Legends has been kind to us.
That is the same for me as well. I actually today turned in the paperwork for a passport, and before anybody freaks out, no, we're not going anywhere. But it was more like a precautionary thing. Like if an opportunity ever came up after seeing some of the hoops that the players had to jump through, and after a couple of players were not able to attend the tournament, I didn't ever want to have a similar experience. And as somebody who has never owned a passport, because I just also have not traveled much, I was like, oh my gosh, I really should fill out the paperwork for a passport, because after hearing the horror stories of other people's travel and everything else with the Masters series, I was like, I need to fill this out now and get it rolling. So,
yeah, on that, I know this isn't the official place for feedback for the Masters series, but I hope they make the qualifiers earlier relative to the actual tournament, so that there's more room for the processes and people to get all their stuff sorted after the last qualifier. Because I know that there was a lot of stuff that ended up being last minute, and I hope we don't end up with that kind of situation again.
I completely agree with you, and I think that's something that a lot of people are aware of.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the fact that 2 players who qualified didn't end up being able to come?
I mean, I think it's unfortunate, but I don't know enough about their situations and the national stuffs that stopped them to really give too much of an opinion. Obviously, ideally, the 16 most people that most earned their qualified spots according to the rules would be able to, but obviously there's always going to be circumstances. I'm glad that I'm glad that it wasn't more than 2 that were subject to such circumstances.
Well, since we're on our podcast and we're not on any of these official type places, I can go ahead and say this: that one of the players who wasn't able to come is coming from a country that is actively trying to dismantle our democracy.
Oh God. Yeah, we did get that. We got that talk about what not to talk about.
Yeah, we did. That's always a great one.
I don't know much about politics, but that sounds not great.
It's always the same list. Actually, I don't think there's anything new this time. But
but, I mean, I would imagine it would be the same list. I would hope it's the same list.
You know, they didn't specifically mention anything new, but I have a feeling that the list did grow, but it was just inferred. They never came right out and said it, but I'm pretty sure if we would have been
actually,
saying anything about Tide Pods or
well, I was about to say Tide Pods weren't mentioned this time.
Yeah, and
they weren't mentioned this time, and they were last time.
But I was also going to say developers, right? I don't think if we would have said anything about Direwolf if that would have went over well, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, we weren't ever told not to say anything about Direwolf, but we kind of went out of our way not to.
Yeah.
Wasn't there something you said during a certain moment that you were worried about for the future? Was it?
I mean, I shouted out, "Oh shit!"
Okay.
I shouted out, "Oh shit!" while we were casting.
Maybe they'll just add that to the list next time. No problem.
Well, actually, you know what? The only word they said specifically not to say during the qualifiers was "fuck."
That's the only thing?
That's the only specific word they said not to use.
So all the other servers are okay, but fuck in particular is not okay.
They were not down with that.
Yeah, which always throws me off because, okay, obviously I think they don't need to come right out and say, you don't use racial epithets or anything like that. But there's always that weird gray area, cunt is really rough, right? And since Justin's already, demonetized this YouTube video, let's just go full in, right? That's one of those, rough ones. But they didn't say we couldn't say it. And I know that it's regional because I know overseas there are some places where it's actually not really that big of a deal, but here in the States that's a pretty big deal.
It's the we're not going to tell you to not say it, but we recommend that you don't say it because if you do say it, there's a possibility that we won't consider you next time.
Yeah, it's just weird that they gave us anything at all instead of just saying generally hey, watch the language, right? Because that vague thing keeps you on your toes, and then you're okay, maybe I won't say it. But if they're just specifically, which they were just don't say fuck, then you're oh well, now what can I get away with as opposed to you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I feel like that's not great. I think that's super strange that they would do that.
There were a couple times that I thought they might say something to us, but honestly, they never in the qualifiers and never during QuakeCon did they ever pull us aside after we said something and have anything to say about being inappropriate.
Maybe it was so long they forgot.
I would also go as far as to say sometimes they kind of egged us on. They would routinely be hey, no joke, for the second week of qualifiers, they came in and they were hey, is there any props you want us to buy? They if we were to said yeah, we want pirate hats or something, they would have ran to Party City and got us pirate hats.
Yeah, I
mean, I am glad that is the attitude they had because.
Can I say what I said?
The ESL guys have been really supportive, and in the event that we ever get to do this again, we know knowing how down they are with our ideas, we're gonna bring it.
Yeah, you guys are gonna prepare the stuff next time.
Yeah, absolutely.
That makes me excited.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, working with all of them was an absolute blast. And for people who maybe haven't been like me who didn't know shit about how this worked, backstage at QuakeCon, just in the ESL guys, there were probably 30-35 people on computers with headsets. When we were out there, when you're doing interviews and stuff, you have an earpiece in, you are wired the entire time. It's a huge production.
Yes, it was. I was actually surprised that backstage is, I mean, it's called backstage for a reason, and that's because generally it's something that you don't see. So for me to actually see it, it's something that I wouldn't see was very very new, and kind of like sank in that like these people are still there, right? It reminded me.
Oh yeah.
One of the things that we gave as feedback was, and other people had said it as well, was that it would have been kind of cool if we could have done a little bit more with like player bios. Like,
yes.
Okay. So for what it's worth, we did also say it would be nice if we could have cast every game, because I felt like everyone who qualified deserved to be casted, but for time constraints we couldn't. That's a whole nother subject. But for like production stuff, we were like, it'd be really cool if they had like player bio stuff or like little intros they could have done. And there was talk about like if we ever did get the opportunity or if the budget ever allowed for it, it'd be kind of cool to almost do like a player media day where like they could film those things to prep it for the broadcast. But I really liked that idea because my biggest complaint when I came back was that I felt like I didn't have enough time to personally talk with everybody the way I wanted. And so like with a media day, I would have felt like I could have made more of those connections. Like the dinner was great. And like the time in between games, like when I had my break, I was trying to make sure I was out in the stands and like talking to the guys and whatever. But even still, I felt like I didn't talk to everybody nearly as much as I wanted to there. And so like the selfish part of me just really wants like a media day where we can all hang out and get into trouble.
I mean, it was so great. I'm sure we would have liked as much time as we could get to talk to everyone. It was definitely great talking to everyone. So, you know, I definitely can understand that. It would be cool to have more time to talk to everyone. Although I can say I probably wouldn't have much of a bio.
Just make something up. Seriously.
I'm 18. Like,
that's okay.
I sailed on a pirate ship.
Yeah.
Listen, nobody's going to second guess it.
In this country via a boat about 50 years ago.
Listen, like you can put like really weird things and nobody will second guess it, right? So you could be like, Will, you know, likes long walks on the beach, is allergic to horseshoe crabs, and you know is the first Master Series champion, and has been divorced twice. Right? And like nobody's gonna second guess that.
Yeah. His 42-year-old son is actually the previous champion.
Will has an adopted son that is 2 years older than him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen,
go hard, man.
In my bio, it was said that I has a dad. That's still one of my favorite championship series moments.
Did we have to submit bios somewhere?
No, it was just when Bradford Lee was casting one of the things and he was introducing me for one of the casted matches. He meant to say that I don't always finish high on the ladder, but I always do well in tournaments, and that's where people see me. And he was talking about I don't finish high on the ladder because I'm busy with my work schedule. And he meant to say I am a dad, right? Because that also takes time. And he goes, and Charmer has a dad, and then just kept rolling, and then like chat exploded with Charmer has a dad, and like that was like a year ago, and I still hear about it. Like Charmer has a dad. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess it's awesome. Not as cool as Will's dad, but
so maybe for a bit, it might be interesting for people to hear a little bit about how you got involved with Team Rankstar, Will.
I think a lot of it happened because I was already friends with Endo. So I don't know how well you know, but I think I'm a pretty relevant member in terms of propagating the scout meta. Yeah. And I did talk a lot with Endo about all of my texts that I made. So like whenever I would change the deck, I would usually go to him and be like, I'm gonna try these changes, and these are the reasons. And then he would usually be like, that sounds reasonable. Tell me how it works. And that's basically what happened every time. And eventually, Lateralis reached out to me, and then he chatted with me. And one day he was just like, we were thinking about adding you to Team Rankstar, and the reason we've been so hesitant is this. And I was like, that is a perfectly reasonable reason. And then like a week later, they were like, okay, so we're still interested. Do you want to try joining? But these are the conditions. But that's about all that happened.
Do you think that Do you think that relationship, the Team Rank Star team, that whole experience, how big of a fact do you think that played into your success at QuakeCon?
I think being friends with Alex a long time ago and that continuing was very relevant because he was the person I practiced with like more than everyone else combined, pretty much. But again, a lot of the members are busy this time. But I think it will be even better next time when there will be even more people. But I do think it was relevant how much time I was able to spend with Endo.
That makes sense. Now, what is it about your relationship with Alex, with Endo, that brought you guys close as friends?
Well, he was like the only person I discussed the game very seriously with, like from a competitive standpoint, where I'm trying to basically min-max, right? To squeeze out every percentage chance I can of winning. And there was like no one else I talked to over something like that. So I think that made our... Yes?
Hold on. I got to challenge this because I'm pretty sure that like 4 or 5 months ago, you and I talked about Doomcrag Redoran.
Did we?
Yeah, come on, man. I recorded like a bunch of videos with it. It was in the Hiking Emmerich chat.
Was I in the server at that point? I remember Zadi kicking me from the server before you joined. And then I was gone for a while.
Dude, Burns in chat. Maybe he can clarify this for me. I thought you did.
Doomcrag Redoran.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I'm just giving you shit. I'm just fucking around, obviously. Yeah. Obviously, I'm not at the level you and Endo are. But that is cool to hear. I think that one of the things that people don't give enough credit to is the opportunity to build like lifelong, like real relationships with people while you're doing, online gaming.
I mean, I think it's easier to connect with people online than in person, even though sometimes it can be harder to build a deeper level relation because it's not face to face. Simply because it's so easy. It's so easy to find people you have shared interests with because you're automatically surrounded. You pick who you're surrounded by so much easier because you just exist in a community and everyone basically works with you. But if you in person, you can't just exist somewhere and you are automatically part of a shared community. Like you have to go and find it. But here you just exist and you the community basically finds you.
See, this is why I wanted more time to hang out with the players, because if you go to a coffee shop with me, you can exist with any group you want.
Yeah.
Like I'll just talk to strangers.
Yeah.
God damn it. Okay. Backstory. Derek and I once went to a coffee shop together. And the coffee shop was full. All the seats were taken, and we had gotten these like cups of coffee in these like porcelain cups, so we're not going to take it outside. Plus, it was pouring rain. So there's this like 18-year-old woman sitting alone at a table. Derek walks up to her, he's like, "Hey, can I sit with you?" I'm like standing back, like, "Oh my god." Sandra was there too, by the way, my wife. She's like, "Yeah, okay." So we sat down and proceeded to talk to her for like 3 hours.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll talk to anybody. Doesn't matter.
She was from Kuwait, I think.
Yes, you are correct.
She was actually pretty interesting.
But the point is, you can be a part of any community you want. You just have to say hello. You just have to bridge the gap.
I mean,
that's my life advice to you.
It just feels like I do. Okay, so I do talk to people. I talk to a lot of people, but it just like end up not having things to talk about, like pretty quick. But before I forget, I want to talk a bit more about the casting at QuakeCon. How you said that you wanted them to cast every game. I was okay. So I actually discussed it with someone. I can't remember who it was, but on either right before we started, like after the player meeting on Thursday, we were like, which matches do you guys think they're going to cast? No, right before the player meeting. And then it was like, they'll want to catch everyone at least once. So we think they'll cast each game where someone gets eliminated, because it would be really awkward if you get over and you get flown out here and you don't get to cast a single game, because if you win, you get more games the next day, right? So, right. But then they told us they wanted to catch everyone that would be in the top 8. So it would be, so a lot of the people that go 0-2 just ended up with no screen time. And I was really surprised that they set it up that way, especially like if you you told your friends and family that you're going and that they could catch you live on stream.
Yeah.
And only to not show up at all. That would be, yeah. So we talked about that. I was really surprised that they ended up setting it up that way instead.
Fair enough. I got to give a shout out to one of my favorite moments at the entire QuakeCon experience, which was Dust arm wrestling CVH.
Yes, that was great.
That was a pretty great moment, and honestly, it was moments like that that really made the whole event for me. The tournament was great, the gameplay was fantastic, but it was these little moments with these people whose like Legends career you've followed for years, like interacting in person, that was just so fucking magical for me.
In
like,
non-Legends ways.
Exactly. And so watching them arm wrestle, or like just hanging out with Santos Vela, who's honestly
seeing everyone play MTG with your cue,
playing Magic was great. Eating breakfast in the morning, just shooting the shit. It was really cool.
My favorite picture that I took was Link staring at the banana. if you guys haven't seen it,
I have seen that. That is a pretty epic photo.
But yeah, when I saw the arm wrestling, my thought was I would lose if I were to arm wrestle anybody here because I'm so out of shape. That was what I thought when I was watching that.
That's pretty great. So let's say that we get to do this again, right? Let's say that there's another tournament coming up in some point in time, and you're there, and now you've had this previous experience. What are you going to make sure that you do that you didn't do last time?
Oh, when I take a photo with somebody, I'm going to take multiple shots and check to make sure I have at least one that's good. Because I took a couple photos, and they came out blurry, and I got back to the hotel, and they were CVH and Josh, two people I couldn't get pictures with again. I was really upset about that.
Okay.
And that's my dad.
There's Dad. Hi, Dad.
Your son is an amazing player, and it's an honor to meet you, sir.
He has no idea what you're talking about.
I'm glad you're proud of him now.
Yes. Your son is a celebrity. I'm so glad you made an appearance. I would like to interview you sometime.
I love maple syrup and your hat.
Yes.
My dad doesn't even know. Probably doesn't care about maple syrup because he is very Asian. I'm
actually not allowed in Canada, so I can't. He's going to have to come down here for that interview.
Fun story. He has spent as much time in Canada as me for obvious reasons, and he hasn't bothered to learn English because he only stays within the Chinese community.
Okay. I can appreciate that. I mean, do you think that helped you kind of be more social, like having to help him with that?
Oh, I didn't. No, I mean, he doesn't really be social, so there was not much to help him with because, he doesn't go out and talk to people often. Like me, actually, so there wasn't actually much to be said about that, but
yeah. Sanders' mom actually doesn't speak English, so
okay.
It's not, and she's talked a lot about how it helped her stay fresh in her first language as she, as her life went on and she spoke less and less of it to other people. Having to communicate with it to her mom has been really helpful for her to stay in touch with that part of herself.
Okay. I mean, he still talked to Chinese people, so I guess I should be fine, but I don't know.
Right on.
So I can't help but notice in the background it looks like there are multiple laptops and monitors and so forth. Is that the setup that's required to effectively play Nixox without the turn timer running out? What is your bat cave over there?
That's my dad. I use one monitor. I actually have a second monitor, but I've been too lazy to set it up because I need to buy a thing to connect it. Yes. Fair enough. Yes. The only thing you need to play Nixox effectively is a mouse you're comfortable with.
And an advanced degree in mathematics.
It helps.
I haven't done math in high school. In university, it's fine. You don't need math.
What college did you go to?
York University.
Wow.
Went on strike for 5 months.
Nice.
Still salty. I still check every morning to see whether or not they've accepted or declined my program change request. I check every morning.
Yeah.
Only to be disappointed. It's almost like I check my email every morning, so Twitch would hurry up and reject me so I can send a new one.
Yeah.
So we have crossed the 1 hour mark. This is typically where we open it up to the audience for questions. Sure. There was one already, so we'll just go ahead and kick that off. Drew Hoove asked the three of us, what's a deck building tool that you wish existed?
That's tough.
I'll go first. Import, right?
Yeah.
Like hyperlinks, even specifically, right? Like deep linking. The idea that I could go to any website where a deck is posted, click on a link, and it will open up the deck in the client built.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to go with that. Just deck codes and being able to upload decks that way.
Yeah, like without deck tracker. Like what deck tracker does, but in client.
I mean, honestly, deck building on a cell phone is fucking trash can fire. Like, I don't know how you improve that experience. I'm sure that it's something that people are looking at Sparky fans, but
oh my god.
Yeah, there are times
it's
when
not a mobile game. This is not a mobile friendly game.
No, it's funny because like it clearly like stands on the shoulders of Hearthstone in a lot of ways, but like it's so much more complicated.
Hearthstone is like a mobile primary game. This is like a mobile not even game.
Right. They're just our entire archetypes you just really can't effectively play on mobile with this game.
I think there's just a lot of functions that are terrible in the mobile client as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh god, is this where I turn off my camera?
No. Shout out to Will's dad again, by the way.
I don't know, maybe.
Oh god, he's stripping.
Oh yeah, god, this is getting good.
Yeah, that might be a problem.
Hold on. This is getting good.
No, hold on. This is a bad idea.
This is... Oh my god.
Yeah, that's a pretty bad idea.
Hold on. We're going to take it off. Okay. Hold on.
Oh. So for this episode of the podcast, we had Will's dad's body.
See you guys after Charmer's suspension ends.
All right.
Sorry, dude. I can't.
Listen. If Master Series ever comes back, if you're on the stage, you need to have your dad just randomly walk up like mid-production and start like changing clothes behind you, just on stage at the convention. Like, just keep like a duffel bag like down by your feet or something, so you can like walk up and change his outfit and then come back off stage. Not explain it to anybody. If somebody tries talking to him, he can just yell at him in Chinese. Like, nothing would make me happier than that entire exchange.
That is not happening. Oh my god.
Oh my god, dude.
I need to focus on making sure I qualify next time.
It's the greatest moment of my Legends career right here.
Yeah.
Anyways, moving on.
Yeah, can we get some questions?
Yeah, please ask questions. And my brain's gone.
All right, so I'll just since we're waiting for questions, I'll just talk a little bit about deck building since that's what the question was about. Deck building for 75 cards is not 50% harder than 50 card decks. It's not 2 times harder. It's like 5, 7 times harder to optimize. It's so insanely more difficult because of how many more permutations there are and combinations there are that you have that first has to offset the fact that you're running 50% more cards, the fact that you're reducing the consistency, the fact that you're reducing your synergies and combos. So I think like the people that are just randomly throwing together 75 card decks, it's almost always going to be just worse than a 50 card deck. But like when you're really trying to make a good 75 card deck, it's so insanely difficult to optimize. 50 card decks, you can very comfortably tell like, oh, this is going to make it better. Oh, this feels close to optimized. 75, I can't even tell. I feel like this deck could be good. I have no idea how. It feels okay. I don't know. It feels like it might be doable to make it good.
That's a really interesting thought. And I agree that the addition of a third color really adds so many more like opportunities to fuck up your like your maximum like efficiency.
You know, I can't help but think of something Karakhan Jewel said during my time there, when we were asking him behind the scenes, like, what was your reasoning behind running a couple of these 1 and 2 ofs? Like, his warrior list has 1 circle initiate, for example, right, and 1 Ald Velothi assassin, and he turned to CVH, looked him dead in the eye, as serious as can be, and he just went, "Eventually, you'll draw what you need," which is funny from him because he's Captain's Top Deck, right?
Yeah.
But it's also funny because, like, in my head, I'm like, I can't argue with that. I mean, I know that I can argue with it, but, like, I kind of can't, and it worked for him. And now, as a result of that, like, specific mantra, I just want to build singleton everything now, because eventually I'll draw what I need.
Okay, so I want to give a quick shout out for Karakhan. I know it seemed like he had some insane drawing abilities. All right, and I won't deny that. A Nazi top deck, insane. Drawing all the Dawnbreakers, insane. Yeah. But the rest, like, oh look, he drew a 1-of that he needed. Oh look, he drew a 1-of that he needed. He has so many 1-ofs. It's bound to happen frequently that he's going to draw a 1-of that's good for his situation. Like, the 1-ofs are still good in a lot of situations, so it's not that strange if he draws a 1-of that's good for the situation. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, I honestly really liked his approach to deck building. I thought that both as a viewer, it made for more exciting games, and he had a good point. I mean, like, you have that many silver bullets, you're bound to eventually hit a werewolf, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't think anyone's going to argue that Karakhan Jewel is not, like, an amazing player. So, like, he also gets away with it from that standpoint. But it was just one of those, like, we expected there to be some, like, really well thought out, like, detailed answer, and he just literally was like, eventually you'll draw what you need. So I still laugh about that. So going back up for some questions here, Endozoa asks, how many catapult decks does Will think people should have in their lineups for the next qualifiers?
1 to 2 at most. I don't think you would ever have 3. I think catapults compensate the rest of your deck building. Now, other purple cards are very good, but catapults do make they are very powerful when abused, but not that many decks are good at abusing them in an efficient way that doesn't give up too much on the flip side.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I do have to say, I love when cards like show up all of a sudden, you know, like Catapult's a card that day 1 of open beta, Spellsword Tokens is running it, and then it went like a year seeing like Fringe play, and then was out in force at QuakeCon. I thought that was really exciting.
Yes, I think there was. Okay, so even now, after QuakeCon and all these new decks, I'm going to say again, and I know I've said this before, but I think there's so many decks that would be powerful if we found them. Oh, God.
Yes.
No comment. Anyways, that would be really good, but I just don't think we've been able to find them. It's that there's just so many options in deck building that it's impossible to explore them all, and like we've got a smaller competitive community, so it's just like I just feel like there's so many unexplored options.
Actually, on that subject of the smaller competitive community, I have a question for you that's related to something I've been thinking about, and it's something I think that I've talked about before a little bit, maybe even with you on Discord. I feel like when CVH stopped his YouTube channel when he got hired by Bethesda,
yes,
it created this void in the content creator community, right?
I agree.
Like people, I think that there's a segment of the game playing community that needs a channel where they can rely on going to see a tier 1 or 2 deck every day, and that's what keeps them fueled, keeps them motivated. Do you think that absence is still like pretty profound?
Let me put it this way, okay? CVH was just someone who was able to feature some decks, but the fact that, like, with how much options we have in deck building, the fact that losing a single person created that much of a void shows that there was always space for more.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Even when he was there was space for more. So definitely, I think there has to be still space for more even now. Just like there has always been.
Do you want to be that guy?
I think making YouTube videos is hard, and I don't think I myself can make that many decks. But okay, so the kind of player I am, as may have been evident, is to find one deck I like, spam the shit out of it, and really try to be as good as I can with it, make the deck as good as it can be. And so if I find a new deck like that, you'll be able to find me spamming probably 100 games, 200 games, 300 games in like every week, on ladder, on stream. But I'm not gonna be the kind of person who's good at featuring a ton of different decks.
Fair enough. Now you've gotten into coaching. I know there's a big announcement about that. Do you view this as like an extension of that, like, more competitive philosophy for the more competitive players?
It's not that, like, it's not very professional coaching. It's just on stream. You come on, I talk you through a lot of decisions. I try, but what it is, I want people to be less intimidated by trying to be more competitive. I want people to I don't want people to feel like they don't know the next step. I want people to be able to know how to get better and what they can do from now on. A lot of people are like scared, like I don't know, like it's the don't tell me to get good. I just don't know how that's done, because, you know, if someone's making a complaint and people just say get good, that's very arbitrary. And I want it to be more transparent in how to do so, how to get better.
Okay. Now, when you're going through that process, there's obviously like talking through decision trees and looking forward to potential consequences for every action you might make.
Yes.
Is there a part of the coaching process in your mind that also involves a player's mindset, their confidence level, their emotional state, like as far as it pertains to like strategic fatigue and stuff like that?
I've never really considered that. Like, it wasn't so much coaching for playing through a long tourney. It was more so just single game by game. So I've never really considered that, but I mean, it could be relevant. I could consider mentioning that, but I'm not too sure how I'd go about that just yet.
Okay. Chad has questions.
Okay, let's
fucking begin.
All right, let's try to rapid fire through some of these to get caught up. We had Aphelion asking, what do you think about Doomcrag on the ladder? Because we know that you took that to the Master Series. Do you think it's viable as a ladder deck?
I think it's viable if you don't expect a lot of support removal and you are willing to go through a lot of losses before you start winning more games.
I think
but it's very weak to support removal. Like, when I was banning decks, I know I was looking at how much support removal they had as a large factor of whether or not I banned a deck. So it's a huge factor in how strong Doomcrag is.
All right, so what are your favorite premiums? Go.
My favorite Path Mage, Unde. They've got to be two of my favorites. Arc Cannon, amazing. Gallon, because it generates premiums for whatever you use it on. I think those are probably my favorites. Yeah.
What about you, Justin?
Favorite premium arts?
Yeah.
High Rothgar is my favorite premium art. No, I'm serious. It's beautiful.
It reminds me of Frost Giants. It's looks about, they've both got the snow.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah, I have a hard time picking an absolute favorite. I think that the alternate art Alduin is maybe my absolute favorite.
Oh,
it just makes me sad because it doesn't see play, but it's gorgeous.
Nice. Yeah, I agree.
Alternate art Alduin is amazing. I wish, as a free player, I don't have any of those special alternate arts. However, I did very much enjoy playing Infinite Alduin until they printed Cast into Time.
From Morrowind, I really like Tel'Vos, Magister, and Path Mage. But there's actually a lot in Morrowind.
Vigilant Axis is kind of cool.
Skyrim, I really liked Drain Vitality and Soul Tear, just because of the way they animated. I know that's like a rough pair to pick, but like let's be honest, the animation and like the way they look in premium is actually pretty sweet.
When I crafted them, I crafted my Scout full premium and I only got like 600 gems back because Drain Vitality was the main nerf and they were commons. But they were definitely the best common premiums I crafted, and that was nice.
Mystic Dragon actually looks really sweet in premium as well.
Oh yes, Odaving is.
But yeah, I was gonna say, so for core set, it's Odaving. I think that one looks amazing. I always had a soft spot for Haunting Spirit after the rework.
I don't know what premium Haunting Spirit looks like.
So Pete Crichton had one specifically for our Will, and he wanted to know if you were from Toronto, and if you are, he wants to know if you know any Crichtons because he has family there, and if you do know him, say hello.
I do not know many peoples. I do not talk to people outside of my house very often.
Fair
enough.
I'm just checking what the premium Haunted Spirit looks like right now because you got me curious.
All right, so we have a question for Justin's cat.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Do you get to eat wet food all the time from all of Justin's fat YouTube checks?
We buy like 2 or 3 cans of wet cat food. I'd say every like 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks, and we give it to her like a third of a can at a time. You know, that shit's expensive, and I think that she really likes Crave dry cat food. She seems like that's her favorite food, so we just try to keep it, mix it up a little bit, right? So like she has a variety.
Question: is premium cat food 4 times more expensive than normal cat food?
Probably. The expensive, like, it's crazy how much, like, how deep down this hole you can go. Like, there are like insanely expensive pet foods. So there's like, I don't really understand the difference. But yeah,
maybe your cat will.
We also keep catnip and little cat treats around, so she's pretty well taken care of.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm still scrolling through because there was a big delay where Justin kept asking questions, and then
hey, those were some good questions.
No, they were solid questions. It just meant that I was like way back on the old scroller Rooney.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Celine's already overweight. She's definitely overweight.
I mean, how bad is that?
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what I said. Like, the cat will stop eating if it's not hungry. Like, okay.
All right, so Dust has one. If Legends was to host an attending tournament again, where would you like them to host it?
I don't know. Let me put it this way. I know little enough about geography that I generally don't care as long as it makes sense. Like, I don't want it to be like, in the desert for obvious reasons, in North Korea. Yeah,
that's not on the list.
I don't think there's an option that I would be upset about. After all, it's about the people, not the place, right?
Yeah.
I was pitching to CVH like at the event. I think it'd be kind of cool to do one in Europe, just because it's kind of centrally located for a bunch of the people that were traveling anyway. It would show some international love. So whether that's like UK or Germany or something, I think that like if they were ever gonna do it, like a big tournament would be kind of cool. Maybe they do it at Gamescom. Maybe they do something specifically else like there. But I think that would be kind of cool if it wasn't going to be somewhere in the States.
Okay. I mean, it depends on how reasonable it was, because here it was at their QuakeCon, right? Something that they already had access to. So it was definitely a lot easier for them to do. So who knows?
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously a big part of it, right? Is they had to set up that stage and do everything for the Quake tournament already. So they were kind of hitting 2 birds with 1 stone. I don't know if they do anything like that as far as like Bethesda overseas. That's why I was thinking like maybe it would have to be like Gamescom and they would share a stage with somebody else again. But I don't know. But I do think that would be cool just because there was a lot of international travelers that may have actually had a much easier time, say, getting to Germany or UK or whatever than otherwise.
Okay.
Endazoa wants to know if Will can help you write a petition to nerf Blackhand.
No, I like Black Hand.
What
more than anything else, I like using Black Hand against Endo in particular.
I remember catching a lot of shit for a long time because when Black Hand was released, I said it was really good.
Yeah.
Like, I caught shit for a long time for that.
So I thought it was really bad. I was one of the people that thought it was really bad because it was a 3 Magicka Firebolt.
That's the #1 complaint I heard, and I was like, no.
But I will also defend it by saying it got a lot better with the Necromancer Uprising archetype.
Listen, that certainly helped it, but I'm still on that whole, like, it didn't need those cards to be good. Like, the fact that items and whatever existed, Mentor's Ring existed, all that before.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was playable and decent before, but I think now that's why it's really good.
We've got... Oh, somebody was saying Swims at Night Alternate Art Premium is also gorgeous, and I would agree.
I agree.
I've got around to like 5 out of 6 episodes for the mastered story for it, but I haven't got around to finishing it. I'll do that sometime if I ever remember.
So somebody wants to know. So Jungle Man or Jungle Main, one or the other, wants to know who your favorite rank star teammate is.
I am going to exercise my right to remain silent.
Good answer.
Yeah. That's a trap.
I mean, I'm not on Team Rankstar, so I can pick a favorite, and it's Aphelion.
Okay.
I do have to say, Aphelion has been a great addition to the community, and someone I've been talking to.
Aphelion is the reason Team Rankstar can exist, so he definitely deserves a lot of respect. He's worked very hard to make this happen.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean that's the reason I picked him, right? Is because he's just he's been a wonderful addition to the community and has always been very fantastic with all of his interactions. So
you know we need to have him on as a guest.
Sometime you guys should do that. Aphelion is great.
Yeah.
All right, so I think this is a great question. This is specifically for Will. How much time do you spend playing Legends daily?
How honestly do I need to answer?
I mean, that's up to you.
It doesn't matter. Man, go for it.
You could have literally... This is back to that bio thing. You could have literally made something up and anyone would have believed you.
This is a temporary... I promise this is temporary. But if I were to estimate, like, I mean, if we only include in-game time, instead of times where I'm just chilling and not actively playing that much, like, the average over the last month is probably like 5 hours or more over like per day over the last like 30 days. A lot of time. The answer is a lot of time.
I mean, it paid off.
I mean, I have to say, like, it wasn't something I did like I forced myself to do, right?
Right.
I think a large, like, if you want to win at something that you gotta really like it, or else you're not gonna be the best. Like, what's the point, right? How hard can you try if you don't like it that much?
Yeah, that's fair.
So I can't. I was gonna say I can't help but just quickly note Endozoa is calling you out and saying,
"Okay, in my defense, I am excluding the times I was watching streams and not playing games. So I'm not lying that much."
Who's your favorite streamer
to watch? I like Link and Warriors.
Okay. Why?
I like, well, Link is always kind of depressed, but I do like listening and seeing his interesting decisions. Because he's a very different player than me, and he's got a lot of his decisions are very different from what I would decide. So I think it's definitely good to see the contrast and explore new options that I would have missed. So I think that's very helpful. Warriors, because he's definitely he's very good, obviously, but he's very creative with his approaches he does. I think his Unite is great, by the way. I love seeing his success with interesting decks that other people would be intimidated to try to reach the top with. So I definitely do appreciate seeing his ability to find success in strange niches. Also, because I like making fun of him when he makes mistakes.
So
somebody asked us how many hours we've played Tessel.
Too many.
I have 571 logged on Steam.
Okay, so enough that my average income, including all of my prize money, would be below minimum wage. That's as much as I'm willing to admit.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say that I've spent a lot of time. It comes and goes. Like this year has been kind of rough because of everything going on, but I'm kind of glad that I don't know between the old Bethesda client and the mobile client and everything else. Like I'm kind of glad I don't know exactly how much I've played. It might depress me.
Yeah. I mean, like, if you count how much time you just spend being a part of the community, reading Reddit, typing things, talking to people, watching streams, everything, I think that's all part of the same experience. So if you include that time, I think maybe that might depress you.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Are you kidding me? Have you seen, like, I was showing CVH my Reddit posts the other day. Like, I was just on my Reddit, and I was scrolling through, and he goes, oh my God, who wrote that long thing? I was like, CVH, that was me. And then like 2 posts down, he's like, oh my God, that's a huge paragraph. Who wrote that? I'm like, CVH, these are all my posts. I don't know how to be brief. I don't know what to tell you. I write novels.
Yeah. I think all of that is all one experience. I don't think you can really separate the two.
CVH once called me a Reddit karma whore.
I mean, he's not wrong.
He pointed out to me that like half my posts are just like congratulations, that's awesome, sweet, stuff like that.
Did you feel like he got you?
I mean, he's not wrong. But like I also think that's important to like tell people, hey, you're doing a great job. I think that sort of validation is important.
Okay.
Another great question for all three of us. Did we play on the new client at QuakeCon, and if so, what did you think of it?
Yeah, I did.
I think it's good that they're trying to fix certain problems that need fixing, and I think it does need. While I believe that they will definitely put out a high quality client when it's ready, I think it definitely needs some more time before it's ready.
Yeah. I mean, I'll go even like a slight step further. Yeah, I played it. I already immediately noticed differences from the last time I played it when we were at Bethesda HQ.
Yeah,
it is in a much better state now, so I'm very enthusiastic about the progress. And so there were even artistic differences. Like I felt like the board looked a lot cleaner. I noticed some of the card art that had been not finalized or finished before. I'm not saying they're finalized now, but some of the changes they told us was coming, I saw implemented in the demo that I did play. So for me, more than anything, like I was just very excited to see a lot of the progress that they had told us they were working on was like implemented in this demo build. So I am excited to see the final product, but at the same time, I'm not impatient to see it. Because I believe that they will take the time needed to make it as good as it needs to be, and I want to see the quality product more than I want to see it now. Yeah, amen to that. Like I don't want it to be buggy. I want it to work. Yeah.
I feel like I'm missing something.
All right, we're getting close to caught up on questions.
Oh, I want to mention, according to Reddit, I only know how to play Nixox Telvanni, and I will be only playing Nixox Telvanni for the rest of the month. Because that's the only deck I know how to play.
Reddit's great. Today Reddit accused me of selling my soul.
I mean, you sold your... You didn't?
I mean, I get paid.
I mean, then it's worth it.
Yeah. Hey, Celine.
Wait, hold on. I want to see what the camera looks like. How much can you see of my dad?
I mean, I can see most of his naked leg, but not his balls.
He has underwear on anyway, but is this doable?
That's why I can't see his balls.
Should I leave this on, or
little tease? I like it.
Is this okay? Anyways, is there? Did we miss any questions?
Yeah, I'm still getting caught up. We're close to caught up though.
This is why YouTube is the superior content creation platform, because I can not wear a shirt.
I mean, sometimes I wish I would like to just turn off webcam so I can take off my shirt because it's hot.
In general, though, like, what do you like? You know, you said that you prefer streaming to YouTube. What is the appeal of Twitch as a platform over YouTube for you personally?
I mean, okay, so the reason I stream is because I didn't want to go out of my way to really. I didn't mean to do it to be a content creator. I meant to do it just so I could have more people to talk to when I played. Okay. Particularly because I'm rather impatient, especially during my opponent's turns. I don't like waiting for my opponent's turn, so I like having that extra something to do while I'm waiting. So a lot of my streaming is mostly just so I have people to talk to while I wait.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's legit. So we do have another question. Zombie Hunter 9x19 says, I like feeling a part of this community, albeit a very small part. So my question for all of you is, what does it feel like to be part of the higher level of the community?
I think, okay, so my opinion is that it's never about how high level it is. It's about what you do to be part of it, whether or not you think you're important. So for the longest time, I've always told people on my stream, I'm just, a nobody, right? There's all these people that everyone knows, and I'm just not one of them. And I'm okay with that because I've got people to talk to, and that's all that really mattered to me. So I don't think it's really important how many people know you. It's about how many people you know and you talk to. That's my take on it.
I think you're selling yourself a little bit short if you think that, like, you're not instantly, like, as far as the entrenched players go, now the most recognizable player in the game.
Okay, well, right now it's very, very awkward when I go and, like, everyone... It's so strange when people call me the champion, right?
Yeah.
When I won, I'm still me. Right, so it's definitely a strange experience to go through, but okay. So the strangest thing of all, out of everything that people have said to me, the strangest comments I've ever got after winning was, "Is this the real one?" For someone that I don't even know how to explain that. That's for someone to have to ask what if I'm real is so strange to me.
Yeah, but are you real?
You're gonna have imposters.
You don't know that.
Listen, everybody go make an alt account that's like, please don't hack me 1. Please don't hack me 2.
Okay, so given my name, maybe someone hacked me. You're right. But...
like, I know how to get to this guy.
Somebody asked specifically, were the physical Skaven cards alt art for the future, or is all the art changing or something? They were kind of coy on that. Like, we said, is this all art? And somebody said yes. Yep, Will's holding it up. There were physical cards at QuakeCon, or for Skaven Pyromancer, the art does not match. We were told, yes, it's alternate art, and that was it. They didn't say, like, if it's part of an event, if it's coming with a new client, if there was anything else. Like, that was all they said is, yep, it's not like the normal art, and that's all we got.
Where's that? Where's that graphic?
I'm trying to make it one cast without putting technical difficulties up. All right, so we have a great question.
Okay.
How do you figure out whether you're making the right early game choices when the effects ripple out so far later in the game? What is the best way to learn broad scale strategy when you can't tell if you are right in an obvious way?
The best way you can do is really... Okay, so a lot of the time you don't know, and you won't know right away. The most important thing is to check if the logic by which you deduced, if it was right or wrong, was flawed or not. If the logic on which you founded the decision was flawed to begin with, then you must make note of that, and that is extremely important to fix. Now, if you were to... Now, if your logic was correct, but your decision was wrong, then you must again reevaluate that both before and after for the future references. Figure out why you made that decision and whether or not that, like if you can figure out why you made the wrong decision. Now, sometimes you just absolutely do not know. For example, you cannot know if one decision is statistically better than the other, then you did not make a mistake. The results panned out in the way that you didn't prepare for. So if there was if it was one was a 50% for one way and another was also 50%, it might just fall into the wrong 50%. You were not wrong in that scenario. So you won't always know, but you should always evaluate your reasoning, the logic behind your reasoning, and analyze whether or not it was correct, not based on the results, but based on probability. That's the most important thing.
It's a good answer.
Yeah, Endozoa said it in chat, but I just want to piggyback on the tail end of that and say, record your games and then watch them back. And what helps me personally as well is like watching them back, like with keeping the ripples in mind, right? Like take it one turn at a time, but then on the next turn, when you see the results pan out, say, okay, if I'd have made that different decision the turn before, how is this different now? Now, obviously, as it ripples out, like it starts to get out of control and there's too many what ifs, but in that immediacy of like the next couple turns after, you can kind of work through, but record your games would be the big piece of advice that I would say.
A few things I have to say about that, especially, okay, so if you're a newer player, it's nice to ask for advice. Ask someone to help watch a game with you. Especially someone that you know is experienced with the deck or significantly better at either the game or that deck. That can help. I don't know where you are, but if you're a relatively decent player but you don't know a deck well, you can ask someone who specializes in the deck. Or if you're a newer player, you can ask pretty much anyone that's very experienced in the game. It's also good to... Okay, so I may not record my games, but I remember my games pretty well. So it's like always use hindsight and question whether or not you were right. But for one game, the game I lost to Karakon's Atromancer on turn 10, that wasn't because of his top deck. I think I statistically made the incorrect play several turns ago. And that was the reason that I was vulnerable to that Atromancer top deck in the first place. So, but this took me a very long time to realize. It took me, I didn't realize until I went to bed on like Saturday night. So sometimes it can be very hard to tell or not very obvious. But I think it's very important to be open to the fact that you could have been wrong.
Next up, we have Jacob with favorite and least favorite decks to play against.
I hate mirrors. I hate playing against my decks, whether or not I'm on the mirror. I hate playing against really janky greed with cards like Shadowfoot, Rift and Pickpocket, Death Priest, Jim Stacy, Memory Wraith. Even if I win, I hate playing against Cultist, and I hate playing against spirits, trolls, stuff like that are very bad for control. And I like playing against actual aggro decks in the sense that they try to send all their damage to face and then don't worry as much about sticking on board. I think it's actually very interesting, even if it can be very difficult.
What about Justin?
I agree with all that, actually.
What?
No, I agree. I playing against aggro decks is great when you play the kinds of decks I'm playing.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I agree totally about Rift and Pickpocket. I agree totally about Thieves Guild Shadowfoot. Thieves Guild Shadowfoot I find more annoying than Rift and Pickpocket. And we talked at QuakeCon quite a bit about my thoughts on
Witherhand Cultist, yeah.
Yeah.
I hate playing against Tribunal and Support Mage. Basically, I hate playing, like, even when I win, I hate playing against the decks where it's like, I play something, you remove it, I play something, you remove it, because even when I win, I don't feel like I did anything special. I just feel like I drew more cards than you drew removal, right? Like, I don't feel like I had agency there. So I don't like playing against those decks.
Yeah, okay. I happen to play against decks that are specifically good against removal because if I play a Tree Minder, like, what are you going to do? Firebolt it? You know, if I play an Endoral, if you Firebolt it, I drew a card. But yeah, straight up removal is generally bad because of how, like, if you have negation, but they drew like a Dragon Tail Savior, and then you draw like Execute, but they have like you know, like a 3/2, like a Bruma Profiteer, and you don't have Firebolt. Yeah. Like if you have a Firebolt, but they instead of a Rift thing, they have like a Barrel Stalker. It just really awkward. So you don't want to, like, creatures you can play no matter what your opponent played. Actions, removal actions, you need to play. Your opponent needs to play the correct ones in that order, or else you follow the turn behind.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I just still don't like to play against him.
No. I know what you mean. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying the reason they generally they can be very high rolly in that sense, because they need, if they draw in the correct sequence relative to your draws, then it can be super annoying to play against.
Yeah, and then, like I said, like, even when I win, it's like, well, then you just didn't draw right. It's not like I did anything. It's literally like, I just feel like, okay, well, they didn't draw what they needed, so I won, right? Like, I don't feel like I've done anything, like, interesting. The decks I like to play against are typically things like Nixox combo. Really? Actually, yeah, I actually really enjoy. Yeah, I don't mind playing it. I'm gonna sound really awkward. I don't mind playing against Nixox, and I don't mind playing against conscription decks, because I know what your strategy is, and then I know that what to play around. But also there's like there's this fun mental game that occurs, like specifically with conscription decks in my mind, because it's like I have to fight for board, and I have to try to get some sort of advantage to force you to play conscription on curve, and then I have to then react to your conscription and then retake the board. I mean, unless I'm playing like an aggressive deck, then I just know I have to win before the conscription. But like if I'm in a more like late game mirror, right? Like it's save the Ice Storm for the right time, or force it when they don't want to do it. And like there's just this mental like jousting that occurs that I don't think happens in the other archetypes, and so that it engages me more, right? So I just I feel like I'm in that game more, and I'm paying attention more. So those are the ones I like, even though most people seem to dislike them. I really enjoy it.
Yeah. Just fun mention. I did. Justin, no, not Justin. Warriors has been playing some Boggler OTK, so uncoincidentally, I have ran into a couple of them, and I could tell that they were Bogglers, so I exactly knew what I was against and what their win condition was, and exactly when was the earliest it could happen. So yeah, it was definitely. It's definitely more interesting when you know what they're doing and what they're trying to do, rather than when you run into random decks thrown together with random greed cards like Death Priest. So you have no idea what to play around. It's definitely a bonus.
Dane, the special guest is Will's dad.
Yes. So Hercule Satan says, wait, the frames on the cameras, referring to the screen that's being broadcast right now, are not for unique legendaries. Does that mean we can have 3 of each of us?
No.
Would you really want more of me? I mean, like, that sounds awful.
Yeah, I think Justin is great, but I think more than one Justin is bad.
Jesus, that'd be terrible. It was almost like what happened when I hung out with Corey.
running 3 Justins is like the real life version of Mudcrab Merchant meta.
Okay, low key, Corey did remind me of Justin a little bit.
We had a good time hanging out. But like we needed someone like Derek around to keep us off our bullshit.
Pi wants to know, Will, where your name comes from. The Please Don't Hack Me.
Oh, so what actually happened was a long time ago I played Facebook games, and because they were very grindy, and all I did was like I would log in like every day for like a year, so things were like developed, so people would actually go on my account, and then I would change my password, and then after a couple times I noticed that we could use a username instead of an email to log in, and I was like, you know what, I should set a username, and then I ended up setting it to Please Don't Hack Me, and then it just stuck out of habit for typing it. Actually, my account was made to be very easy to hack because I was very lazy with the security. It stuck because, you know, when you set something, you type it over and over, it's just easy, right?
Yeah, fair.
It was not meant to be a name that anyone ever said, so it's actually super awkward now. Like when they were on stage saying my name, who won, and stuff like that. It sounded super awkward. I feel bad for the people that had to say.
That's funny.
I mean, at least you're not like, you know, Pussy Slayer 69 or something like that, right?
Okay, I bet like Bethesda would have requested that I get a name change for it.
Dude, I was helping a guy a while back make a resume at work, and he's like, "Yeah, you know, I changed my life. I'm looking for a job now and stuff. I never had a real job." We're filling it out, and I was like, "All right, so what's your email address?" Oh, and I asked him too. I was like, "How long you been sober?" He's like, "Oh, I've been sober for a couple of years." I was like, "All right, so what's your email address?" You know, as I'm helping him with his resume, he's like, "Oh, it's smokeweedeveryday420@gmail.com or some shit like that." I was like, "Bro, we're gonna have to get you a new email." And he's like, "Well, but that's the one I always use." I was like, "You ever gotten a response to any of your applications?" He's like, "Well, no."
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's when something sticks from a time you don't want it to stick, awkward things can happen.
Yeah.
Like, I have certain accounts with usernames and passwords that I will leave long forgotten, happily.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I think last week or 2 weeks ago on the show we were talking about making alternate like character nicks for Reddit. Mm-hmm. And like how like I have a whole bunch of them, but like I can never remember how to log into them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad. Please don't employ me at yahoo.com. Yeah, exactly. That's great, dude. They got GeoCities closed down forever. Holy shit. I was in a band in the 90s and we had a GeoCities website.
I don't even know what GeoCities is.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's just like this. It was just like a platform where you could, for free, like make your own just like awful website. And, you know, just full of like, I don't know, there weren't really like emo kids. If there were emo kids at the time, they would have been making sites on there. But it was like goth kids and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I see.
Mac had asked, did Person of Secrets miss Lethal with Black Hand intentionally or not? It was not intentional. We talked to him after the fact. He said, that was the reason I asked Will the question earlier about like what you could hear through the headphones, because he told me afterwards, he said, even though they like muffle it or whatever so that you can't really hear what's going on, he knew something had happened because of the crowd reaction. Like he could hear that like the place erupted. So then it was after the game had ended that he realized he'd made the mistake.
Mm-hmm, yeah. He was very inexperienced on Nixox, and like I could tell during the other games, and I want to say that is okay. Like I understand that when you obviously expect extremely high level play, and Person of Secrets was a good player, but it's very, very difficult to prepare on short notice, as with no prior competitive scene, 4 good decks 2 weeks after the balance patch, that you're happy and comfortable. It is much more difficult than you're giving these players credit for. It is very hard. is there a schedule? Okay, so what was happening? It was just a small project I wanted to see. I wanted to see how much the community liked my coaching. So it's not really a predetermined thing. I will be tweeting updates on information for my future coaching sessions. So you can find that there.
All right. We want to know, this is from Endazoa, okay. What is Will's dad's favorite manga?
He does not read manga. He actually, when he sees that I am reading manga, his reaction is, look, he still reads picture books.
Huh. I would have thought he wrote it.
No, that is not the case.
Somebody in chat, sorry, I got distracted. Somebody in chat says, loving the Baroness cosplay happening in the background.
That was amazing. That was absolutely amazing.
Oh, wait. Oh, my God.
Parents just don't understand.
Oh, that's funny. All right, and we are officially caught up on questions at that point.
Perfect timing.
Right, because we are at the end here of the normal podcast time anyway. Is there anything that you want to say, like, in closing, Will? Anything? You've got this platform. You're the most recognizable player in the game. You are the Master Series champion. You are the person who has slightly less student debt now than you did before. Yes. What do you want to say?
If you want to get better, you can always get better. I know we don't have that much resources, but like I can always get better, so you can too. Don't be intimidated if you want to be a competitive player. You don't have to be a good player to participate in tournaments, because that is the best way to become one step closer to being a good player. So participate in warp metas and whatever tournaments you can find, even if you don't think you can or will win. You'd never go into a tournament expecting to win. You go into a tournament wanting to do your best and perform the best that the opportunity provides you. Good luck.
It's a good message. Yeah, I want to thank you very much for taking your time to be on the show. I want to congratulate you again on your amazing performance and your first place finish at QuakeCon. It's been a real treat talking to you over the last several months and watching you succeed in this tournament. It's been an absolute blast. You did get the hug. We did hug.
Yes. You did promise me, and you did give it to me.
I did deliver. Yeah, we did hug. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what's next for you. This has been good times.
Thank you.
Oh, and Boatmister has the most important question, which I'm still pissed about, which is, did I get paid with a giant check after all? I did not get paid with a giant check, and I am pretty upset about this.
Listen, I'm going to go out on a limb and say if they were to make a giant check, it would cost more than what they actually paid us.
That makes me feel guilty for not bringing back my giant check.
You didn't bring back your giant check? What the fuck, dude? That's the best thing that happened.
Okay, I had a trophy, okay?
Yeah, that is true. You did get a trophy. I forgot about that.
Yeah, he got a murder weapon of a trophy.
It is a pretty sweet trophy.
That thing was fucking a pain in the ass to bring back. It was heavy, but no, I did not bring back my giant check because it was a pain in the ass to bring.
Before they saw the trophy, one of the players asked me if it was like a good hefty trophy, and I had described it as it was heavy enough that if you had said to me, Colonel Mustard with the trophy in the study, like you could use it to describe a murder weapon, and I stand by that. It's a legit trophy.
That's funny.
It's like over 10 pounds at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, we want to thank you for stopping by. We really appreciate it. We'll obviously see you a whole lot more.
Good times.
Yes.
And there it is. There's the official good times, which means we're rounding it out.
Just to say that every time.
Yeah. I just start like spewing nonsense when I get tired.
All right.
I don't know. The ideal podcast length for me is like an hour, but and actually every episode's supposed to be an hour. They all end up 2.5.
Yeah. So.
Show trophy again?
Yeah, bring out the trophy.
Yeah.
My lighting is terrible, but I'll try.
Have your dad actually bring a trophy. Have him stand up and grab it.
Can you guys see it?
Oh my god. There we go. Master Series trophy. 2018 champion. Please don't hack me, Will from Toronto.
All right. Well, let's all say good night to Will's dad as well.
Good night, Will's dad. Thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Yeah. And you know, I guess this is now where we say we'll see him on the ladder, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Do you want to say it, Will?
So we'll see you on the ladder. There you go.